We now know Indiana football's complete 2026 schedule for the upcoming season. And while most of it isn't too bad, there's a stretch in the middle that will determine if Indiana can repeat as national champions.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. So thank you so much for making that so. Thank you for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen or your first watch every single day. We'll have a segment at the end of today's show talking about Indiana basketball, coming off the win against Purdue, also coming off a nice pickup of a commitment yesterday as well, and how they have a chance to go on a little bit of a run. I'll tell you how they can do that. Plus, I want to give you my thoughts on some of these college drama situations, Darian. Mensah in football, Charles Bediako in basketball, how Indiana's kind of tied into all of this and what we can do to try and fix the nasty landscape that we're in. But we now know the Indiana football 2026 schedule start to finish. We knew the opponents, right? And we knew where they were going to be. We just didn't know how everything all kind of stacked up. And we were still waiting on a couple of things to get finalized. But the Big Ten announced it this week. We now know all the schedules for the Big Ten teams, including your defending national champion, Indiana Hoosiers. And I do think the schedule is relatively favorable. Okay, I do believe that Indiana will have several wins on this schedule that you can go ahead and pencil in, and a couple of them you can probably Sharpie in as well. So I don't think the schedule as a whole is all that bad. But there is a stretch, all right, in the middle of October that will totally determine whether Indiana can repeat as national champions or not. And if you've looked at the schedule, you probably know what stretch I'm talking about. It's the road game at Nebraska, a home game against Ohio State, and a road game at Michigan. Those are the three toughest games on your schedule outside of one more near the end of it. But we're going to talk about it and break it all down here on the show. And so, I mean, it starts out just brutal for the Indiana Hoosiers because you have North Texas to start, then you have Howard, then Western Kentucky. My gosh, what are we going to do? I'm kidding. I'm just getting out in front of this like everybody else who's going to call in and totally rail Indiana for their week non-conference schedule. Guess what? It worked last year, didn't it? If it worked last year, let's not change anything. Do I love the idea, right, that Indiana has 3 games at the start of the season where you should win by 70? No, I don't love that idea. And I've been very vocal on my thoughts on I don't love it, but I get it, and I understand why you do it. And again, it worked a year ago, so let's just stick with it. So you do open up the season, right? September 5th at home against North Texas. You'll then have Howard come in on September 12th, and then September 19th is Western Kentucky. So all your non-conference games are there, they're in, and then they're done. You open up Big Ten play at home against Northwestern on September 26th. Now, we understand that Northwestern is Northwestern, and you will be so much more talented than them. It's not even funny, and you should win that game. Should not have any stress, should not have any worry. You then open up the month of October going on the road to Rutgers. I don't expect Rutgers to be anything crazy. You should have no problem with them. You should start the season 5-0. You'll be a top 10 team. You'll be 5-0. Most people won't really buy stock in you yet because of your schedule, and that's totally fine. It'll be more so buying stock from this past season that carries over into next season, and of course the transfer portal guys and the ones you were able to retain as well. And then there's the stretch. There it is. 3 games in a row, back to back to back, 3 weeks in a row, back to back to back. You go to Nebraska as most likely a 5-0 team on October 10th, right to Lincoln. You then come home for a Big Ten championship game rematch with Ohio State. All right, you have that one on October 17th in Bloomington. How awesome is that going to be? Then you head up north to Ann Arbor and take on Michigan, a completely new-looking Michigan team, on October 24th at the Big House. That's the stretch, folks. That's the one where we will learn just how good the 2026 Indiana football Hoosiers will be. I think they're going to be extremely good. I think the talent is there, the depth is there, the coaching is still clearly there. So I think Indiana has a chance to beat all three of those teams. But two of them on the road and Ohio State coming to your place, that'll tell us everything we need to know about the Indiana Hoosiers. If they go unscathed in there, all right, they're probably going to win out. They're probably going to go and compete for another national championship. If they win two of the three, all right, you probably feel pretty good about it. One of the three or none of the three, then Indiana's in big time trouble. Okay, so that's the stretch in there. You then end the month of October. So 5 games in the month of October. You'll play Minnesota at home back here in Bloomington. And then you finally get a much needed bye week. Man, that's a lot of football between the start of the season and the bye week on November 7th. And that will be a time for you to hopefully get healthy, reset, kind of lick your wounds if you've got any, and prepare for a tricky end of the season as USC comes to Bloomington. That's a big game. Excited for that one. Hopefully USC is, capable and willing to be competitive in the Big Ten this year. So they come to Bloomington on November 14th. You go to Washington, to Husky Stadium in Seattle on November 21st. That might be the toughest road game of the year for Indiana next season, and maybe the second or third toughest game on the schedule for the Hoosiers. And that's also Washington's senior night. Funny enough, they scheduled that when the defending champs come to town. And then you return home on November 28th for Purdue in Bloomington. So overall, again, I like the schedule. It is heavily loaded in the back end compared to the front end, but nothing that Indiana can't handle, nothing that Indiana can't run right through like they did this year. And it's the stretch in October, and then USC and Washington. We're going to know everything we need to about this team, but excited for what that schedule looks like. Your home games, the big ones are Ohio State and USC, Purdue, obviously, but I just don't know what Purdue's going to be in year 2 there under Barry Odom. And so, again, Ohio State and USC at home, big road games at Nebraska, at Michigan, and at Washington for 2026. All right, we will take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll zoom out a little bit, and we'll talk college football and college basketball because, man, there's a couple of situations going on right now that are just simply broken. And Indiana was kind of in it, but kind of not. And I'm hoping that we can find a way to just get it all fixed. We talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The WNBA has released its 2026 schedule featuring a 44-game regular season beginning on Friday, May 8th. The league's historic 30th season includes expansion teams Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, with opening weekend highlights such as Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings, and a rematch of the 2025 finals between the Aces and the Mercury. In college hoops, South Carolina handed Vanderbilt its first loss of the season with a dominant 103-74 win. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, welcome back into today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. A little bit of football, a little bit of basketball on today's show. We had a bunch of basketball over the past couple of days, so be sure you go and check that out if you missed it here on the YouTube channel, on the audio platform as well. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you doing that, following us on your audio platforms as well. Also, make sure that you check out our Locked On Hoosiers Everydayer Club that we have going on right now. It's $5 a month. You can get this show ad-free sent to you every single day. So if you don't want to listen to any more ads, cool. All we need is a $5 bill, a cup of coffee. That's all it is. And you'll get this show ad-free every single day. Plus, you get access to our private Discord server, which is a big group chat, basically. If you're unfamiliar with what Discord is, you will be added to that and access to the Hoosiers Discord, the Big Ten Discord, all sorts of fun conversations going on in there that you can be a part of every single day. Plus, you get some cool access to merch and discounts and things like that. So check it out in the link below in the description, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Click on Locked On Hoosiers and you can be a part of that. So this segment, I wanted to kind of speak out, speak out a little bit on what's been happening across college athletics. And there's several things going on that some are settled, some are not. And it's more so just me voicing concerns here about where the direction we are going for college athletics. And Indiana was kind of tied into this in its own special way, but not exactly with what I want to talk about here. It's the Demond Williams situation that got us all started. Darian Mensah now settling his dispute with Duke. And then the Charles Bediako stuff going on in Tuscaloosa with the Alabama basketball team. So if you remember, right, Demond Williams, when that news broke, that was crazy stuff. Turns out he, obviously the starting quarterback there, very talented, had signed a contract to return to play for Washington. He then decided, I want to leave. I want to go somewhere else. Turns out somebody was trying to pay him more money, and Washington said, heck no. You signed with us. You're not going anywhere. We're going to raise hell for you not to leave because that screws us over. And then the Big Ten got involved and backed Washington, as you would imagine. And then they decided to settle it. Demond Williams going back to Washington, and everything is fine. He never really wanted to leave anyway, right? So that situation came and went. And it was like, wow, that was kind of wild, but glad they worked it out. Glad everything's going to be okay. Then there's the Darian Mensah situation, which just got cleared up this week, right? Darian Mensah, star quarterback at Duke. Come to find out, he signed a 2-year contract to return to Duke with NIL evaluations up to $4 million a year to be the quarterback for the ACC Blue Devils, which is a lot of money, A, for him, but B, from Duke football, too. So that's pretty crazy. But then he decided that he wanted to leave. Just all of a sudden said, you know what? Actually, I think I want to enter the transfer portal. I think I want to go somewhere else because somebody, some coach, some team, some program just happened to be on the phone and trying to get Darian Mensah to leave Duke and join their program. Turns out that school was Miami, and Mario Cristobal needed a new quarterback, and they tried to recruit Darian Mensah. So he tried to leave, and much like Washington did, Duke said, not so fast. Remember this piece of paper? Remember this contract you saw? Remember this dotted line that's got your name written so pretty right above it? You're not going anywhere. Your NIL belongs to us. Your name, image, and likeness belong to us. Those rights belong to the to Duke University. And he said, oh, really? So then they got in a big legal battle where Duke was suing Darian Mensah, a college football program, a university, a prominent one at that, was in a legal battle with a student athlete, a quarterback, over his NIL rights and whether he could break the contract or not. That in itself is completely broken and disgusting, in my opinion. But don't worry, they settled their dispute this week. They had a divorce. They signed the papers. And less than 24 hours later, Darian Mensah had committed and signed with Miami to be their new quarterback. Wild stuff there. But it got settled, and I guess everybody's fine. There were some terms to the settlement, but as of now, those had not been released, okay? I don't know if it's money. I don't know if it's I'm sorry. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. So there's those two situations. Then there's the Charles Bediako stuff going on in college basketball with the G League player now returning to Alabama to play for Nate Oates on the hardwood. This is a guy that played at Alabama, went to the NBA draft, didn't make it to the big time, signed multiple G League contracts, was up for the G League All-Star game voting on their website, and then decided he wanted to return and play college basketball for his mental health or whatever they called it. And now he is playing for the University of Alabama on their college basketball team after playing in the G League for the last year or so, because he realized he left too early from college and he wasn't going to make it to the league. So he decided he was going to come back. And guess what? The NCAA, their hands were tied. They had nothing they could do, and they just have to sit there and take it. Because he got a judge in the state of Alabama that said he can be eligible to play because the NCAA can't do anything about it. They signed a restraining order is basically what they did, and said he can play until there's a hearing about his eligibility. NCAA said, yeah, we can't do anything about it. And so there you go. There's more details there, but just that idea alone is absurd to me. And so, folks, we're going in a really bad direction here. This is not what college athletics is supposed to be. This is not what transfer portal, NIL, extra years of eligibility, redshirting. This is not what we were supposed to have here. And I mentioned that Indiana has kind of been in this situation themselves, because think of Lewis Moore. Lewis Moore is a non-direct example of all of this, I think, working in a good way, right? He was never threatening to leave Indiana and signing contracts and trying to break them, and he didn't go pro and then come back, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's a different situation. If you remember, he was fighting for an extra year of eligibility because of previous years at previous schools that he claimed shouldn't count against him, the Diego Pavia rule. And he had a judge sign him basically a restraining order that says, until the NCAA says I'm ineligible, I'm considering myself eligible. He could play the first 4 games, got cleared, and ended up being obviously a huge piece of a national championship winning team. But I bring that example up with these two others because it's another example of the NCAA having little to no power, having to sit there and just get smacked around left and right, and just watch it. And it's sad. It's sad to see. It's depressing to see what's happening in the game of college football, college basketball, and beyond, because the organization that's in place has no power. They have nothing. They're worthless. And yet they still sit there and try to represent. I don't know, man. Something has to change here, because it's already gotten out of hand, but it's getting to a point where college athletics are unrecognizable. And that's sad to me. I don't want to see things change that way. I don't want to see guys who played in the league, played professional sports, come back and play college athletics. I don't want to see somebody sign a contract legally agreeing to return to a school and then saying, yeah, well, they offered me more money, so I'm actually going to go there. Thanks, bye. That's ugly. That's disgusting. That's terrible. But that's what's happening here. Because right now, the college athlete has so much power and so much control, they don't know what to do with themselves. And the agents are not helping this either. But shout out to places like Washington and Duke, who stood up for themselves and said, you're not doing that to us. You're not going to pull one over our eyes. Heck no, not happening. So good for those schools. Thankfully, Indiana has not been caught up in anything like this. I'm sure we will at some point, just given the direction we're going here. But I don't know. I wanted to get that out and kind of talk about that a little bit, because it's sweeping college athletics. And it's ruining it, really, for football, basketball, and beyond. And again, I just hope Indiana can stay out of that type of drama, like Darian, Mensah, Charles Bediako, Damon Williams, and that stuff. I hope the Hoosiers can stay out of that for as long as possible. All right, coming up here in our final segment of Locked On Hoosiers, we will flip to basketball and talk a little Indiana, coming off their biggest win of the season, the biggest win of the young Darren DeVries era. But how do they build on that? A favorable stretch coming up that Indiana can make a run with. We talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between the subscriptions that you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down all those hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in. The personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Look, I'm somebody that takes pride in their money, okay? Takes pride in their bank account, takes pride in knowing what happens on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. I signed up for Rocket Money when they came on with us as a sponsor, thinking it's not going to help me too much. It's not going to do me any good. Turns out, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Hidden fees, all these subscriptions I'm paying for, double subscriptions I'm paying for, and money that's going out that I literally had no idea has been happening for years. And so don't think you're too good for this. I promise you you're not, and I promise you Rocket Money is going to help you in the long run. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, final segment here on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on your audio podcasting platforms. Make sure notifications are on as well so you never miss any new episodes or bonus episodes or live episodes of Locked On Hoosiers. We do it all, so you want to make sure that you are in the loop. And we did a live show talking Indiana basketball as they took down Purdue on Tuesday, right? 72-67, biggest win of the year by far. Could change the season for this Indiana team, one that was reeling, right? 4-game losing streak. You go on the road and blast Rutgers, but nobody really gave you a whole lot of praise for that, myself included. And then you take down Purdue on your home floor by 5, and you do it in multiple different ways. You shot the ball well in the first half. You defended well in the second half. You rebounded well for the most part. You got other guys involved, and you won a basketball game and played a full 40 minutes. So now the question is, as it always is after a big win, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to take advantage of that? What are you going to do with a win over Purdue? I think you have a chance to go on a run. You play 2 games out west, right? UCLA on Saturday, USC in the midweek. Then you come home for Wisconsin and for Oregon. And if the top 25 poll doesn't change dramatically, right, we'll just go off of what it is right now. That's 4 games in a row against non-top 25 teams. Think about that for a moment. Non-top 25 teams, and you play 4 of them in a row. Now, you've been okay, right? You've taken a couple losses in Big Ten play. The Minnesota game was not good, and the Iowa game was not good. Those were against non-ranked opponents, but the rest of your losses of Big Ten play are against top 25 teams. And now you just pick up a win against a top 25 team. My point being, this is an easier stretch, right? I know you're out west. I know you're playing in California, and you'll be out there for probably 5 or 6 days at a time. But UCLA is okay. USC is okay. Wisconsin is okay. Those are games that Indiana can win. Bruins are 14-6, 6-3 in the Big Ten. USC 15-5, 4-5 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin is 14-6, 6-3 in the Big Ten. So all of those teams are kind of right there with you, Indiana, as competitors, fighting for big wins, fighting for the NCAA tournament. So they're going to give you everything they got as well. Am I saying Indiana should go 4-0 in this stretch and anything less is unacceptable? No. I think winning The stretch, though, I think going 3-1 would be amazing. I think it would do wonders for the rest of your season because coming out of that 4-game stretch, you have back-to-back road games against top 25 teams, Illinois and Purdue, right? An Illinois team that they've got some dudes, a freshman as well, who just dropped 46 points the other day, and Purdue, who's going to look for revenge. Then you have Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota, all those games at home before you go on the road to Ohio State to end of the season. So you've got a stretch right now and a stretch at the end of the year that you can stack some wins. And it starts on Saturday with UCLA. It starts defensively. It starts by moving the basketball and getting others involved. It starts by getting on the floor for loose balls, getting up and down the floor, communicating on defense. And Indiana did those things against Purdue. So I feel confident here that Indiana can make this happen. I feel confident that Indiana can build on this. We've seen Indiana bounce back from losses and finally get back in the win column. We've seen them stack some wins in a row. But against quality opponents, we just haven't. And this is a chance for you to do that. So you can keep building your resume, go on the road and take care of business, come back home. Oregon is terrible, by the way. Oregon is not a good basketball team. I didn't read their stuff. They're 8-12. Folks, they're 1-8 in Big Ten play. They are banged up. Don't get me wrong. They are banged up here as of late. But folks, they're on a 6 game losing streak plus the UCLA game. Like, come on, man. Like, that's a team that is just, they're desperate, are the Oregon Ducks. Several games to go until you get to them. But you see what I'm saying here? A chance to build some confidence, to build your resume, because the season's fading fast, man. February is this weekend, and you're down to 2.5 months. No, 1.5 months of basketball to prove yourself. And I think Indiana can do it starting with the UCLA game this Saturday, coming off of the win over Purdue. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. Thank you so much again for being here. Really appreciate you and your time, as always, for being here, making this your go-to spot, making us your first listen or your first watch. Whether it's football, basketball, recruiting, transfer portal, doesn't matter. If it happens and it involves IU, we've got you covered on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast, okay? We are back for another episode tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.